Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 333 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to add the new stuff to the bus, which includes nitinol and the new tungsten alloys. Enjoy! The last bit of the ingots we need to do is the nitinol. We also need to do glass wherever it makes sense, and we picked it up, so it's not on our list anymore, but I like how much cleaner it looks now compared to before, and it will continue to look cleaner because now we have this giant setup, which we need to pick up and move. And that is kind of an ingot thing. So, nitinol, silicon nitride, glass. We need to make tungsten plates out of the powder, which is cobalt and tungsten, which will be ground down. We need tungsten carbide plates, which also comes from powder. And then the weird one, which is the copper tungsten plate, which require that we add copper plates to it. The best way is probably to take our copper ingots, turn those into coils, chop them down into plates, and then mix them with the powder all right here, because any other way would require logistics requests compared to just dealing with it here, and then we won't have to add any. Well, the silicon nitride is right here, so it would be nice to make it smaller, a lot smaller. And actually, since a lot of this is low value resources, really it's only silicon and nitrogen, we totally could just use speed modules and make this not nearly this big. But since it's already here and the train station's already here, I kind of want to reuse the space. Does this monstrosity create 30 a second? Pretty much. So that's what we're looking for. So silicon nitride, we want 30. But we have better furnaces. 375. And we have actually less than that, only 200. But this really doesn't do much for us. It just reduces the silicon requirement from 30 to 20. And we are going from the default of 112 to 375. So if we instead went to speed modules, it would be 37.5. Seems much more reasonable. Okay, it should probably make its own nitrogen gas here. Although the factory does have a lot of extra. And this is a nitrogen generator for the entire factory. So as long as the number isn't crazy, we could just use it. So let's assume we do. And this is all there is to the setup. Well, we want to make it take up less space. The train station still may stay here. But this design is reasonably good already. So what if we only used these machines right here? How many would we need? It would be 37, which would extend to the bus a little bit, but we could also just move it up. So let's start chopping this setup away. Oh, we do need the grinders as well. So let's start getting rid of the setup. The ingredient is the powder. And these will probably be quite quick. Oh yes, just one machine. Although using this would be more accurate, so we probably want to go to over here. So instead we'll pull up these ones. And there is a empty robot zone in the middle, so we need to remember about that, but it probably won't actually be relevant because now it's going to be smushed up there. So that's 48. We only need the 40, which goes to there, so we can get rid of another row. Does this fit as is? Could we smush it in here? Oh, totally. Lots of space. We probably just want to scooch it up a bit, really. Or maybe line it up at the bottom of these machines. So we'll just cut it all out. So same setup again. Lined up right here, and that's a pretty good spot for it. We do need space for the grinder, but we only need one building, so it should be pretty easy to put wherever we need it. Let's upgrade some of these pipes to ceramic, and also the machines themselves. Seems like the batteries are getting discharged faster than I remember. Which is probably true that some of this equipment might be using more power than I'm used to since we upgraded it. But nonetheless, we're not that far away from potentially even better battery technology, but specifically better power armor along with the fusion reactors and all that good stuff. And we do need the grinder, which actually, based on these numbers, is quite tricky. Let's see, could we put it here? Well, we only get 7.69 on that inserter, but I wonder if it would go faster totally if it was this. Well, here's something weird. How about if we do this? I wonder if that will give us the output that we need. Well, either way, it'll certainly be fast. Okay, I guess we'll keep extending the bus lines then. Hey, maybe we can go down here now, since there's nothing blocking it. And just go across. There's some junk down here. And this was delivering oxygen, which we don't need to do anymore. Now we need to do nitrogen. Let's see how much of a straight line we can do this. Just hop over everything. Aw, got blocked. Well, actually, the generator is right over here. That'll make use of all our factory's extra nitrogen, which we are, for the most part, just throwing away. So now we don't need to generate it anymore. Well, everything's already full, but we can pipe the ingots in and see if this grinder works. I mean, it's fast. Seems to work. It's filling up. Not much else to see. I kind of want to save glass for last since it's the weird thing. So how about we'll do the nitinol next. So we'll grab it, output. I don't know, let's go with 60 and just see what happens. Productivities. Make the setup fairly large, but now that we know that that's how it's going to be, we can plan for it. And it requires very little when it comes to this machine here. Just the one. So, is 60 of them a second too crazy? Probably not. And all of these look like they're at least more than 30 because there's 2 belts, so potentially could have been 45, but I think I'm fine with 60. And now that we know what the setup's going to look like, we can plan for it. So, any more robot holes? Kinda. But now, we can just place these where they need to go. I think that was probably the very last little section of the factory that did not have robot coverage. Just because it wasn't worth rebuilding it for that. But now, everything looks good. So we need to do a setup here. And it's probably not worth doing anything too crazy, but we can check the productivity module speed. And it will put out very little, so we could just make a grid of them. We can just kind of select a few for now. And we'll figure out where to put it. Looks like we're actually going to need more track. Well, the part that melts down the ingots is going to be very tiny, so we probably want to design something that basically takes up the whole space. And I suppose while we're here, actually make use of the better power poles. Not sure what kind of belts we'd want, but does this tile? Seems to in that direction, seems to in that direction. And that's probably the practical limit to how tall it can be. Just about. It's probably a little too tall. Is this a little better? Yeah, we'd still probably want to have a tank in there, but I think this will work. So what do we actually have? We have 30. So if we copy the same thing again, it gives us 60, which is basically what we need. I don't know if this thing has alternating nears and fars, but we also kind of don't need them. Let's just use red belts for both sides, so we don't have to do the nears and fars. And then that basically does it. We'll need to figure out exactly where to put it, but let's line this up somewhere that works. So how about right there? And let's use 2 belts going in. And then where to put this? How about we put it like right there? Although that doesn't leave room for a buffer tank. But it may not really need the buffer tank, since there's only one way of making it. And that is slightly too close to the track to get an unloader in there. So, do we just pick it up and smush it down all the way? I guess so. So making the nitinol. On one side is the titanium, 2 inserters, and one side is the nickel. And how about we just put it right here so it lines up with the pipes. Get this set, nitinol load, and set to the right resource. Got some extra power poles in there. Fortunately though, can't quite walk through here, which is a little annoying. Although, we probably could just fine if we put that in there, because it still hooks up right there. And since we are working on nitinol, we might as well do the nitinol processing, which will unlock all of the things that are dependent on it, some of which we can build now. But of course, it gives us the ability to make the nitinol pipes, the bearings, and the gears. I'm not sure if these pipes are any better. They're length 27, so we'll hit that, and then compare to all the other pipes we have. Because right now we're doing the ceramic pipes, which are the same as titanium and the same as tungsten. So since tungsten is a rare resource, we might as well keep using ceramic. But we get a max length of 27 with the copper tungsten pipe. And we also get 27 with nitinol. So we'll probably end up using nitinol since tungsten is a rare resource, but nitinol does not use rare resources, at least for us currently. So we'll be able to make some better pipes. And there we go. It doesn't really unlock that much in the beginning because there's other research that has to go into some of this stuff. But we'll handle all that research when we're ready. Okay, well now we have another need for titanium. And there's that error again, but must be just something with the settings. That's a little wrong, but I think it'll work fine, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, let's go. Once all these machines get filled up properly, it should smooth out. It's just the machines in the beginning are greedy and they're taking all of it. Eventually it'll smooth out. But there it goes. Filling up the train station. Although this doesn't actually have its speed module in there. So that'll help. It's kind of mesmerizing watching the pipes get filled and unfilled. But it looks like they're basically filled now. And it's a little clogged on this belt. But it can really only do 15 anyway, so you would kind of expect the ones on the very end to be a little clogged. Although, we do have an output of 60, which is going to require the better belt. So if we want to see how it really works, gotta crank it up. Sure, seems fine. Noticed we had a blinking light right there, so let's get rid of it, because it's not working where it's at. And it's kind of funny how it's only filling up to 1 so far, but that's just kind of because of the oddities of how the loaders work. Otherwise, it seems to be doing a pretty good job. Okay, now that nitinol is done, we can do our tungsten products, which we need all 3. And I was thinking with the copper tungsten plates, instead of making the copper here, we could just use one of these bus belts and just straight up send these copper coils from all the way down here and just kind of route them back. That'll probably be much easier than doing it in any other way. Then getting carbon here should be relatively easy, and also doing it with the cobalt. Because our position is so far away from the main bus, like carbon's being made here, it's probably going to just be sent up this way. The belt will be shorter if we do that process first. So let's do the tungsten carbide plates. Output. What would 60 look like? Well, also, what would our output be? Well, we are basing it on 60, but Looks like only 30 of the powder go in, so we potentially could do a lot more than that, but you can see by the number of sintering ovens here that this setup will be exceptionally large. Also, is this the kind of thing where we really care about having productivity modules? Because if we took those out and only did speed modules, it would become much more reasonable in size. And all of those productivity modules are just saving us 10 powder a second, and the carbon, but carbon's easy. Do we really need to do that? Well, right now, we certainly care, because the powder is a rare resource. But eventually it won't be, and it'll just be one resource like everything else. So what if we build the setup with 64 units, but to start, we'll put in productivity modules, so it'll be quite slow. But at least we will get the most value out of the tungsten that we have, and then, if it seems like some point in the future it's just not fast enough, we can just crank it up with speeds instead. And plus, we do have another tier of better modules and whatever, but whatever the setups get that big, you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Like, what are you getting for your 500 some odd sintering ovens? And we're getting 10 tungsten powder, and it's just not that difficult. That, when we get advanced ore refining, we can put a hybrid catalyst, and then the purified sapphirite, givelite, and stereotype, and then we'll just get tungsten ore. And to purify ores requires no extra resource, it just requires machines and time. So it's not like it's that difficult to make. So I don't really see the need of making this setup huge just to put productivity modules into something. And we could also make it smaller, but the other alloy type resources did do about 60 a second, so let's do 60 here as well. Have we actually used a sintering oven before? Or is this our first use of it? Because it certainly looks different than our other machines. Well, let's figure out something that we can copy. And I suppose, before I forget, let's just fill that gap in now. It has 2 inputs and 1 output, but we can use extra long inserters for this. As cursed as extra long inserters kind of look. Where we have 3 belts. I'm imagining yellow inserters will be just fine here. There we go. And then the long-handed drops can just go in the middle. And are we actually making sintering ovens? Perhaps not, since they are not available. Well, I guess we haven't been using them then. And that's actually only sintering oven 1, because there's no tier that comes before it, so building it will be pretty easy. It's just stuff we already have. Let's use a random spot that won't need any direct insertion. Probably like this one. And there it goes. And now robots are picking them up. It's actually kind of amazing that robots fly so fast I can barely keep up with them. Even running on the refined concrete and with the character walking speed upgrades. That I have to straight up fly in order to beat them. But we do want to put the productivities in here to start with. And now, let's copy it a few times, see what it looks like. Do the power poles reach? Oh, they totally do, and that's actually a good distance. But it might look cleaner if they cross over like this. So I think that means we can do one more. And there we go. Now we have something that can tile a little bit. So that gives us 16. And luckily now we can smash these right next to each other. Do we try to get a few more in here? Because we have the perfect square if we just do this again. But let's see here. I think we need to grab these ones to do that. And yeah, we're getting pretty close to the maximum size, so each one is 20. So if we copy this over here, we would have 60 in total, which is pretty close to the original goal. That I think it being square is more important than being exact on the numbers, not to mention we have higher tier of machines and modules still waiting for us, so we could upgrade it later to get the full output if we needed. So now that we have this, we can move it over. Give it a few squares so we can at least walk between the machines. And how about, like right here? We might need to put a robot zone in there because we have to pull this one out. Now, which lines are we going to use for the tungsten? Because we haven't actually picked one yet. And that is certainly going to drain the repository of everything that it has left. Ooh, 64k of residuals. Because now we're going to create a huge buffer. I don't expect any of these resources to go any further than this since we're kind of at the end game, but nonetheless, I would still like to not overlap the belts, and we've got 2 of them right up here. So that one goes up there, that one goes there, cross over, and here we go. Oh yeah, we did create a huge buffer. And that being set wrong, so that'll have to clear out first, but it's all good. We are starting to run out of space, though. But we only have 2 more processes to put in here. At least 2 tungsten ones. We still have glass, but we might end up putting that anywhere. Carbon is just going to be down here somewhere. But we probably want to use one of the bus slots. At least temporarily. Well, we've got one. I think right here. It's kind of awkward, but that's the best kind of slot, because it's not being used for anything, so now we can use it for something. And this will generate some more of that sodium carbonate that we need, which is always nice. Man, there's so many belts going in and out of this thing. Well, I guess it's going to be one more. Going up through here. This is also a nice little space right here that we could use for some processes if we needed to, because it's not like any of this is going to extend any further. So we do have an area to potentially make glass if we need to. We need yet another train station, but is that copy still in here? Because that worked out pretty well. Looks like it's too far back. So we got to pick up another one and put it wherever is in the middle. And doesn't get blocked by things. This is probably our best bet right here. Might actually need red, so I think I'm going to just update everything to red here, just to make sure there's no issues. Gotta set this. Tungsten carbide load. And of course get the circuit set up. Okay, I think we're ready. Looks like I chopped off the input right here. It's a very quiet machine. It doesn't have any exterior movement, so it's kind of hard to tell that it's on. But they're working. It's just this whole setup is not going to be very fast because of the productivities. Only 5 per second output. So it's just not very impressive. But if we slapped it with speed modules, it would be fine. So it's nice to have that backup. Also, it's nice that it's not going to consume our tungsten very fast. So when we hook up the other processes, there'll still be some tungsten left over for them. So it looks sad, at least in the beginning. But we're not going to need very much tungsten in the very near future. We will need it, but not at this second. So we can just let it go for now. Oh wait, there's a little empty area right here, which needs to get filled in. 1 out of 3 done. Between the other 2, which one would we want? Well, all of them are made in the sintering oven, so the setups will actually probably be pretty similar. Although there will be an initial first step with powder, so let's save that for last, and instead do the copper tungsten plate, and see how that setup looks. Man, it just looks so slow. But, it's because they're all running at the exact same time. So, it goes in bursts. Compared to all the other setups, this looks quite anemic by comparison, but it's going. We'll crank it up with speed modules if we have to. Alright, so these copper plates, let's just say we want 60 of them. It's kind of the same thing as before. If we put productivities in there, it becomes huge, but really all we're saving Copper's not that important. It's just a little bit of tungsten. So we could save 12 tungsten a second and have 320 machines. Or don't save the tungsten and make it 32 machines. I think we'll do 32. And we need a coil chopper. It is probably worth putting productivities on here since it's just not very big. So 3 machines chopping coils. And the setup needs to be 32, which is way smaller than this setup. But the concept is basically the same. So we probably can just reuse part of this here. And just go up to 32. Yeah, like this. Let's put 2 gaps in there. It does just barely fit, which is nice. And in it goes. And kind of like before, even though we're planning for speed modules, we'll just continue to use the productivities for now just because tungsten is such a rare resource for us that when it isn't a rare resource, then cranking this up with speeds is not going to be very much of a cost anymore. Alright, we've got space in the bottom for the plate choppers. They can go anywhere, so how about we just kind of line them up like this. And the other thing will be the tungsten powder again. And then we need another bus slot for that copper. And there is a convenient one kind of right up here. It's in an awkward spot, but it's above zinc. I think we can use that one. And it shows you the power of coils because we only need 3 per second. So in fact, that's so slow. Pretty much a drone can do it. But do we want to? I mean, there is a drone path here, but seems like more work than it's worth, considering we do have an extra slot on the bus for this. I guess if we didn't want to use that slot, then that would be useful. But I'm fine using it. Well, it's not a lot of space to come down here, but we can make it work. Whoa, that train was going fast. Now we wait for it to get here. While we can look at the last thing we need to do. Cobalt powder and tungsten powder, but it has a 1 next to it. Which means there are other ways of doing it, and we have to consider what those ways might be. With tier 2, we would process the tungsten and then add ammonia. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But another tungsten product, and then add more hydrogen to get the powder. So that's a different way of making the powder. And then we will get a second powder mixture, this time using nickel. So in the end, we will have more options. So I guess it's a good thing that this is going on the end. So if we decide to rebuild it, nothing else will really have to move. And there's also tier 3, and they're both gold researches, so they lead right into each other, so it's kind of funny. But let's plan for it. We'll just plan for tier 1 since that's what we've got. Tungsten plate. Let's just see what 60 gives us. It's probably too much. Well, actually, in this case, it looks like the setup's going to be significantly smaller. So I think we can just straight up use the productivity modules for the whole thing. Because this is saving us both tungsten and cobalt, so it's pretty valuable. Then we have the mixers, but no productivities, so oh, couldn't quite get it down to 1. But that's actually an insane input and output for a 2x2 machine. So we might actually need to make that bigger just to have enough room for the inserters. We'll have to see. It might barely work with 2. Are the coils here yet? Man, they're so far away. Look at that. Well, then we would just use the bottom of this for the powder. So it means that the top part of the setup is basically the same. And since it's so close to this in size, I kind of just want to use the 32. Because it's just asking for it. Let's rotate that around. So we get more space for these. 1 and 2. We'll have to fix the inserters, but we can smash it together. There's our 16. Slap another one on there. And now finally, the copper made it. Still need to change these recipes though. Looking good. Well, the machines are a little faster. But with the productivity modules, again, they're going to be pretty slow. But we are going to get 6 per second out of it, which is basically the same as that setup there. Man, that's so slow, 16 seconds. But there they are. Let's slap another train station in there. See if we can get it in here without getting trashed. Oh yeah, it fits. Like right there. Awesome. I really need to put this stuff on the bus, but at the same time it's just like, it's a few things. I can just handcraft them real quick. It only takes a moment. Laziness and not automation will really get you in Factorio. This one is the copper tungsten plate. And for this, we don't need a balancing warehouse. We'll just use a splitter. And in it goes. And now they go slow again. Well, since we're here, can we paste one more of these? Well, we're at the end of the pipes. This bus ended up being pretty huge. That is long. But it's straight. Okay, I guess, yeah, we can just line this up with those lights. Although it would be slightly more compact if we, like, put it right there instead. So this is just tungsten plate load. Oh. We are actually out of rails now. Well, okay. I was just talking about being lazy, but I guess we don't have much of a choice now. I think some of this stuff was being stored up here. It was legacy resources from the old bus that just were never replaced, and we're just about at needing chain signals too. We still have tons of bridge though, so I guess we'll leave that up there. But almost out of train stops. Man, look at all those electrodes. So let's quickly pound through all of the rail items just using our little mall down here since it's been working out pretty well. I imagine pretty much everything we're going to need is going to be up here. Well, kind of. We are going to need iron rods, which isn't really something you'd want to put on a drone, but at the same time, I definitely don't want to make a big old belt setup for something that isn't going to run that often. So each one gets its requester chest. But iron rods are going to be weird. See, how fast does that machine go? Pretty fast. So we'll put a purple in there. And also, it'll have an output on this side. Uh-oh. Oh, geez. That's kind of bad. Of course, turrets are working now. No, there's more. Well, it held, kind of. Biter evolution isn't particularly high, so I think we're okay. Just needs to kind of fix all of that. But we can make uranium ammo soon. Can bots reach that? Yeah. We will be able to make uranium ammo, which is significantly better than what we have now. And that's one of the first things we probably want to work on after we get this bus fixed. Assuming we can research it. But for now, there are biter orbs that need picking up. Since that gathering turret only works sometimes. Oh my goodness, look at that. Wow. It spilled everywhere. It's on the belt too. So, guess we'll grab it for now. Oh, there's so many. I think we do actually have to go down there and pick them up, because it's just too many. And right here we can just do long-handed to go straight into what it needs. Every one of our factory's construction bots is working on this task right now. Wow. That is what you would call an excessive amount of orbs. I think there were too many orbs in there that the guns would run out of ammo before the orbs managed to make their way through the system. and get to the end where they potentially can be cleared out. Alright, I think that's all of it. Of course, except for that. Robots are still going to work. But we're down to 52k of oil residuals, which is fantastic. We've almost got it cleared out. And then we can see how the reactors work. Although we might be getting to the point where we're almost overloaded on these orbs and we'll need to start burning them. So it's kind of good that the system is about to be cleared out of all its resources so we can configure this. Because, yeah, it is getting close to being full. Okay, now that that diversion is complete, we can get back to this. And we pushed up right to the edge of where we could go. That was lucky. Okay, so each one of these is going to have 10 units a second as an input, which actually isn't that bad. And then it will have 20 as an output, and we probably do want the stack inserters, if anything, just to have near and fars. And yeah, that's about how it works. Although we do have one additional step here, so let's kind of change this. That will be just the tungsten powder, but we also need to make the powder for the cobalt, which is easily done with one machine. And we can direct insert that. But actually we would be using 2 machines, so we don't even need that many speed modules. Actually, using all of those efficiency modules got it down to neutral energy consumption. Guess that makes sense, 4-to-1 ratio. Now that the speed modules use 4 times as much energy. Feels good to be at the end of the line here. Still need to do glass, so it's not quite the end, but it's nice having all of this kind of be behind us now, because it's taken a lot of work to get here. Guess we'll just hook those up, let them go for a little bit. Oh, they do glow at night. That is nice. So you do see some action on them. Okay, cobalt is all the way down here. Uh-oh, a junk warehouse is filling up with orbs now. So we probably need to have some kind of logic to burn those now that they don't have anywhere else to go. Okay, ready to go. And this one will be a little more exciting, because of how much faster the setup is. Yeah, seems good. Let's send the resources on their way. So this will certainly use up the ore fast, but it's doing it in the most efficient way possible, so there's no complaints. It is what it is, but going pretty good. We're getting our 60. Awesome. Okay, that's most of it. The last thing we have to do is glass, but that's gonna have to wait till the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.